All right, it's episode 5. And what are we talking about today, Gloria?
Well, and now it's actually getting pretty warm out, and we see a lot of new sunscreen launches. So it is time for a sunscreen refresher and looking at new launches, too.
Oh, yeah. But first, my name is Victoria.
And I'm Gloria.
And this is the Chemist Confessions podcast, a human conversation on all the skincare science we love to talk about. And I think there's a very honest question we got about just the podcast that we probably should address first, right, Gloria?
Yep, we got this. So I guess we're jumping right into the brand update.
Yeah.
We got this in the email, and Abigail wrote in an email to us, question about the pod. What do you mean when you say a human conversation? Aren't all conversations between people human? I'm always so perplexed when you say it. And we do, actually, that's the one thing we consistently say every time.
Yeah.
Do you mean it's a candid conversation or honest? Is human just a phrase I'm not familiar with? That is a great question, Abigail.
You're absolutely right. We should clarify. We both are humans. This is a conversation between two humans, so literally, yes. And when we say human, I think we always meant science can sometimes feel almost sterile.
A little sterile, yeah.
Robotic, and honestly, it is. It's supposed to be a very rigorous experiment, and, at the end of the day, it doesn't quite capture realistic perspective on skincare. That's why we say human.
Yeah. So hi, Abigail. I wrote back. I wrote her back, and in my response, I said, to me, it is leaning closer to candid.
Yeah.
And exactly as Victoria said, it's sometimes when we write on Instagram and we talk about the science, and Instagram can only capture so much. Our writing has become a little buttoned up, and we want to portray things correctly, and of course there's nuances and things on both sides. So a lot of times we don't talk about our personal taste, our opinions, or, making random jokes about Idris Elba's new skincare line. And the podcast is our outlet to do just that, where Victoria and I, on top of the science, get into our personal takes and our struggles, and things that we preach better than we execute, So keep things very real,
yeah.
and honest.
I think, it's also the fact that a lot of studies are done with very strict regimens. And I think you'll soon realize that us two especially are the most minimalistic, almost kind of haphazard with our routines, and that's just life, and that's the reality of it. And we want to share that perspective because it's hard for us to stick to the routine.
But yes, Abigail, great question, and we should have addressed that earlier, so thank you.
We always love to hear from the followers and just general follower musing. So I know we dived right into the content immediately, but we're going to just back up real quick. And Gloria, what are we drinking today?
Right. So the other human factor of this is we do over a couple of drinks.
Yes.
So today we made our own very, 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 very legit cocktail.
It's legit.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. We have tequila that we picked up in Mexico that I totally got because it's buy two, get one free. With a splash of, is it coconut pineapple?
Yes, it's Trader Joe's coconut water and yuzu.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then splashed with some homegrown lemon.
Yep, delicious.
There you go. You're definitely worth a try.
Cheers.
So cheers. Yep.
All right, so brand update. It's gonna be pretty brief today.
Oh my God, give us the brand update, Gloria.
Our products are back in stock. It's been a long time coming. So we are recording this on March 22nd.
Yeah.
So by the time this comes out, it's going to be probably a month out because we're still on top of this, guys. I'm really hoping we don't have anything else that go out of stock in that month.
That's exactly why I got quiet. I was like, damn, I hope nothing goes out of stock.
But as of March 22nd, we have everything in the warehouse. Everything is in stock, and yay.
Yay, us.
Yay.
We did it, guys.
It's only been a quarter. Thank you all for being so patient, but also at the same time, the number of people that asked about these out of stock SKUs is honestly really exciting to us. It makes us really happy knowing that, like these are beloved SKUs that's become people's staples.
Yeah, definitely. And just to ride that train, we're going to share a little bit of nice words to go along with that. So I think first things first, we'll start off with actually a review about our newest product, Double Play, which we actually haven't featured.
Being a long
Yeah, and the reason why is because amazingly enough, everyone who's tried Double Play and written a review has been very methodical in the review writing. And a lot of it is like, I wanted to give this a month before I wrote this review. And so definitely the trickle has been a little bit slower with this, which is interesting. But yeah, take it away, Gloria.
Also, I want to add that in the history of launches, this is the softest soft launch ever because we were so skeeved out by like potential supply chain issues.
Softer than a baby kid.
Yes. Typical normal brands, when they launch products a month out, they're, sending them out so they have reviews on launch.
PR up the wazoo.
Yeah, and we were like, ooh, we are not sure if this is gonna come out on time. So it's just gonna pop up when it's there. So literally it started from the ground floor, and all these reviews are just from our early adopters and people excited to try the product.
And also, we had a cohort of our hatchery participants that were waiting for this. So yeah, softest launch ever.
Yep. So this review reads, title, so far so good, but too soon to tell. I've been using this product for about 1 month along baby steps exfoliation treatment.
Nice layering. Sorry.
I'm new to all things anti-aging. My skin feels and looks great, and my typical monthly hormonal breakout was significantly better this round.
Yes! Sorry.
Double Play is very gentle with no smelly stuff, and I love that.
No smelly stuff.
I can't say whether it's improving my fine lines yet, but I understand it takes about 12 weeks of consistent use, ? However, I'm happy enough to have just placed a second order, and I'm excited to see how it goes. Yay! Thanks, Larry. And honestly, I think this is... I love what our customers are so in tune with how long skincare takes to work.
Yes.
How they observe the changes in their skin and just subtle ways that, like to look for the right cues.
We heart you guys because y'all are realistic with skincare standards.
Yes. And let us know how it goes. Let us know if you have any questions.
Yep.
And for those of you listening who are interested to try the Double Play, I want to mention that while Larry didn't experience any irritation, he did pair it with our Baby Steps, which is a very gentle exfoliant. So if you're on something that's stronger, still proceed with caution. I myself struggle with retinoids, so I can't use Double Play every night. Still, I take it 3 times a week, 4 times a week max, and that's my tolerance level. So be sure to kind of adjust it to your skin's
Yep, exactly that. And I was actually going to ask you, Gloria, what about the eye area? Because that can be different per skin type, per person. Yeah.
You know what's funny? My eye area isn't sensitive.
Oh, pretty good.
It's I can use on my eye area as often as I use on the rest of my face. For me, it's this.
Yes.
This. Yeah. For sure. It hates.
Yeah, totally agree. So yeah, and what I also really liked is giving products a fair chance, giving it the full 12 weeks.
Yes.
That's actually how long it does take to see results in things like wrinkles and hyperpigmentation. So love everything about this. And we're going to move on to the next product.
Yep. This one is much shorter. It's for the Specialist Exfoliation Treatment. It says, title, love this. I use this especially for my T-zone, and it helps a lot with my congested pores and acne too. Definitely will repurchase, and I really like the color. It's so pretty. Yay! Thank you. So I actually picked this review because I want to talk about the color of the Specialist.
What? We don't want to talk about congested pores and acne?
It is a thing of the past thanks to the Specialist.
You're right. We're moving on. Color.
So we use when we were formulating our exfoliation line, we decided on the actives and what they will all what each product will have really early.
Yeah.
So gold standard, glycolic acid, highest level, most aggressive, done. Specialist, Mandelic, oily skin, done. Baby steps, gluconolactone, lactic acid, gentle. And then we were like, well, they all look the same.
Yep, that's true.
Might get a little confusing to people.
Very true.
We definitely don't want people to use a product and only recognize it by what it faintly smells like.
Also
so we're
true.
like, we should color it.
Also, it also helps making sure that people are mixing it thoroughly with whatever they're mixing it for the nightly booster. And it just lets us play with color a little bit without having to think about things like undertone, which we would definitely ruin. So it's been really fun for us. And nowadays I feel like they do a lot of really cool things with plant extracts now.
Yep.
Because actually all of the colorants we use, they're not actual colorants, they're plants. So
yeah, that's why they won't stain your skin.
Yeah.
So in the Specialist, the blue comes from a flower extract. It comes in a powder form. It's very pretty. And with the
sweet potato.
And with the red comes from sweet potato. And we'll say we've gotten some weird ones too, like color powders are just like the color just dies on you.
Yeah, for sure. So amazing. Thank you guys. Like we said, no paid reviews. So keep them coming, and we love to read all the nice words. It's good for us because we don't take compliments well, so this is the only way we're gonna get it.
Yay.
All right, cool. Now it's time to move on to some news.
In the news,
all right.
I think we've had a couple episodes of slow news cycle.
Yeah, it's been quite slow.
Yeah, but this time I think there's some interesting stuff to talk about.
Okay.
First things first, BASF. You guys might not be familiar with this company. It is a gigantic chemical company, and the key
ginormous.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of the raw materials you find in skincare. So anything from surfactants to oils, they've got you.
Right. So BASF and partner are planning to develop customized sun care products for people with albinism, which actually is great because they are definitely, it is definitely a skin type that is incredibly sensitive to too much sun exposure. So yeah, I think it's really great. BASF is a company that makes a lot of sun filters. They have a whole portfolio of zinc oxide, and you guys think zinc oxide just zinc oxide. Why is there a whole portfolio? Preview to the meat. I think it's really great for even not BASF is more of a B2B type of company. It's awesome that even companies like that, they take on initiatives like this, and who they are the experts in some of these sun filters. So I think it's a great partnership. Yep, for sure. So that'll be exciting to see, and ultimately we see this as just going to lead to better formulation all around, just because this group of people, they live in an area that has to deal with extremely high solar UV strength, and so all in all, it's all good things. So all right, next, I don't know if any of you guys watched Shark Tank, but there has definitely been a lot of beauty brands that have seemingly been on Shark Tank, so we're just going to address a couple of those. Yeah, so Victoria and I had the pleasure of attending Target's accelerator. Wow, right before COVID slapped us all upside the head and changed our lives forever. Actually, it was mid-accelerator program, and then basically half the program had to be from home, which was quite sad. Yeah. But we met a lot of great entrepreneurs there. A lot of people doing cool things. And 2 of the companies we met there actually went on Shark Tank. Yay! Good job, guys! So big shout out to Range Beauty and Young King Hair Care, who were in our cohort of Target Accelerator brands. And their founders are amazing. Yeah. Young King happens to be a line of hair care that's specifically geared towards young boys, and the Range Beauty is basically looking at foundation and shades, particularly for people of color, and the founders are honestly just beautiful people, and we had a great time getting to meet like-minded founders that just want to do better, and all in all, we're just really happy to see everyone grow.
Yeah, so check out their episodes or check out their products and links here.
Here. All right. Cool. Next
is a piece of news.
We got a recall?
Yeah.
All right. I think this is the first recall of the year, I feel like.
First big one that came on our radar.
Yeah.
I want to say I never want to look so joyful in a recall. And this is
what?
No, this is not a knock on the brand. So, Jergens, their parent company is actually Kao, which is the mother companies in Japan. They recently had to issue a big recall on their moisturizers, citing potential contamination with bacteria. Now, this kind of stuff happens, and it can happen to anyone.
Yes.
So it's not a knock to the brand Jergens. It doesn't mean their products that are still on shelf aren't safe. It just, these things come up when you do your due diligence. It made me a little bit joyful because I'm like, this is why you preserve your products, children. Like these things happen. And Jergens obviously use preservatives, but in production, in manufacturing, these things still happen.
Yeah. I think it's so commonly overlooked, and people don't realize that with every type of formula requires different preservative strategies. Some are incredibly hard to preserve. Also, there are certain formulas that hate the preservatives that you need to use. So it's actually quite a big challenge for chemists, and it's quite annoying in terms of the issue with preservatives is you want to find the right balance, right? Some preservatives actually, they at high enough levels can cause irritation. So finding that sweet spot while not growing anything else that you don't want in it, I think, you're right. It is a really great reminder of how important this component is.
Yeah, and fun fact, this might be a segment of Chemist Care, though you might not.
But this is about us.
But this is about us, so you're going to listen. Every chemist's rite of passage is probably a paraben replacement project of some sort. We're not going to get into how parabens got put under the bus and
ran over, steamrolled, and basically pushed out of existence. Yep.
So there are plenty of formulas out there that had parabens before, and chemists are tasked with replacing the paraben with a new preservative system. It sounds like a no-brainer. You take out a paraben, you put in the new preservatives. Cool, right? No, it changes everything. Some are relatively easy, but then there are products where you change it and you're like, why does it feel gross now?
Yes.
Also, why are you separating on me? So these things happen. So Chemist Care.
Chemist Care. And also, I think the other thing that's really annoying is people think of it as, it's one-to-one. It's so straightforward. And some people deal with that kind of project for a couple years just because
it's so infuriating.
And what's even worse is I would say preservative replacement, and then any sort of raw material replacement of an existing formula. Those are probably the most challenging. And then starting from scratch, know. So Chemist Rant. If you didn't know you were signing up for this is now the Chemist Rant.
Welcome.
All right, one more thing to rant about. Another skincare,
personalized skincare. Yes. So I saw this and I was like, damn, I just ranted about this last episode. But yes, there is a new personalized skincare on the horizon. This is called the Skin Trust Club. It's a mobile app that comes with a testing kit. So this is yet another microbiome test kit. Users will buy the test kit and it works concurrently with the app. And it's synced with the QR code. They've thought of everything. They use a cheek to swab, which is different than Elsa Youngman's, which I did. It's that one swaps skin directly. And you send it back, they'll analyze it, and with the app, they will update you with, they call brand agnostic personalized product recommendations, which I do find that concept interesting, right? Which to me,
they're not incentivized.
Yeah, they're not incentivized, and it makes a little bit more sense because at the end of the day, I don't think any one brand can produce and carry enough products that's so tailored to like the diversity of skin types out there. But we'll see how it goes. I'm still skeptical.
I think this quote didn't resonate with me very well. I think from the company, they say the industry is realizing that with Skin Trust Club, the holy grail of personalized beauty and skincare is here. I'm like,
big claim.
That's ballsy. Like, do you know what holy grail means? Yeah, but like we said, usually the challenge comes from, they can give you all this data, but it's really about an execution, what that means. And we honestly have never tried it. We don't know their product offering. We don't know how they're linking the data to ingredients and formulas. So I guess there's probably going to be more to come. So.
Yeah, we will keep an eye out for this. Yeah. Honestly, today I think microbiome in general, or like microbiome care, is a field that we are very excited about. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of real science. Yeah. I just feel like any testing kit, the execution, especially with these bold claims, I'm like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's really it for the news. We are going to jump into the meat, and it's all about Sunscreens review. Probably a lot of this is going to sound familiar, and that's good. That's great. But ultimately, we'll just run through a review of what you should keep in mind, and then what that means in practice when you shop for sunscreens, and what to look for in some of these new launches we're going to look at. So first things first, how do we organize the sunscreen category? We just simply separate it from chemical sunscreen filters and mineral. And
yeah, and the easiest way to remember is there's only 2 mineral sunscreen, it's zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. All the rest are chemicals. I want to say that we'll see in Me Part 2 as well. Mm-hmm. There are a lot more products now that blend the two.
Yes, that's a good point. And if you're wondering why they're called chemical, it's honestly, all things are chemicals. Water is a chemical. And they really just think of it as, how do we say, it's more of like the fluids. Anyway, so don't let that deter you from giving chemical sunscreens a chance.
And just FYI, chemical sunscreen is also called organic sunscreen. Yes. Sometimes you'll hear say organic and inorganic. And I guess because organic has, in this sense, it literally means organic has carbons in it. Yeah. And I guess it gets a little confusing when consumer associating with like organic food, so then they start using chemical versus mineral a little bit more often. But yes.
Woo. All right.
Anyway,
so bring it back.
Titanium dioxide, zinc oxide. 2 that you need to remember. All the rest are chemical.
Thank you, Gloria. And we're gonna try to keep this as concise as possible. If you want deep dives, definitely check out our blog. Also check out our book, which is even more in-depth. That would be the easiest way. We're just going to focus on quick takeaways. So the other thing we want to remind you guys is you should always follow the standard 2-hour rule when it comes to sunscreen application. This is because of how sunscreens are typically tested to get their values, to make sure they have the right level of protection. It always follows this 2-hour rule, and therefore that's why we highly recommend to please stick to that, especially if you're gonna be outdoors. And the other question you might have that comes, or I guess the other general question you might have with sunscreen is, do you really have to wait 15 minutes before going out and doing your activity? It's a little bit loose. That 15 minutes wasn't like a real technical thing that was like studied. Obviously, the drying time of a formula can change, but that's a general guideline. Sometimes we'd rather you do your best to apply it and then go out if you can, than like, oh, I don't have 15 minutes to like wait and then go out. And the main thing that they want to happen when you apply sunscreen is that you are able to create that like even film, and that it can set up nicely, and that's why they would like a little bit of time to allow the formula to absorb and set on skin. Yeah.
I was going to say that the rule of thumb with sunscreen, whenever you think about it, instead of going to like these nitty gritty, like very, very specific guidelines, it's allergy season. I'm sorry, guys. But it's always going back to thinking about the film. At the end of the day, sunscreen work by having an even, well-distributed film on your skin. So when you think about things like sweating, being outside, mechanical damage, and waiting time, all these rules, at the end of the day, it filters down to how do you create an even, well-established film and not damage it.
Yes, very good point. All right, so those are some general questions. Let's get into the claims, because at the end of the day, you might be wondering, should we be decoding that IL? And sunscreens is a one scenario where we'd rather you decode that claim more than decode that IL.
Yeah, it's sunscreen label looks different than regular cosmetic labels because it's an OTC product.
Yep.
So you'll see a little OTC label, and they'll call out the percentage and which sun filters they use already for you. But when you get to the other inactive ingredients, it's wild. And honestly, if you're not a chemist, it's hard for you to pull out anything specific that you should be looking for. So yeah, that's why we say go straight to the claims. And all these claims have to be tested.
Yeah. So first things first, we got to address SPF. And SPF is a value of UVB only. The idea is it's sun protection factor. The idea is it's calculating the amount of UV protection that it can provide. A lot of times when you read what SPF might mean, they like to say that, it's a value of time, that, you get 30 times the amount of protection in the sun.
I think that actually sums up why SPF value can be confusing, because it's like, how much longer does it take for your skin to get burned? Kind of. That's why people sometimes are like, does that mean it can be in the sun for X number of times longer?
Right.
But that's not really how it correlates to like real life actions.
Exactly. In fact, if you calculate by time, that can become very problematic because, for example, you think, this prolongs, I get 30x length of extra time in the sun, but let's say you're out in the sun at 9 a.m. versus you're out in the sun at 1 p.m. The strength of the sun is actually completely different, and it's just not a very good measurement. So instead, you want to think of it as how much protection does that actually provide. And just a quick review, the strength and the protection is not linear. So don't think that if you get SPF 30 versus SPF 15, you're not doubling the amount of protection. An SPF 15 provides you 93% protection versus SPF 30, which is 97, and then SPF 50, which is 98. So it's definitely not a linear scale. So hopefully that gives you an idea of SPF. And for us, we always like to say a general sweet spot is between SPF 30 and 50, which sounds kind of low, but for us, the idea is that you are having to compromise texture for protection. So if you can, we find that this window has the best balance of texture.
Yes,
and
exactly. And you'll hear us say this a lot, but texture is king. A good
Always.
Sunscreen is one that you will use. The
Exactly.
end. I remember last year, especially, was it last year? It feels like last season. We had all these mineral come out because you have a lot of bad press. You can refer back to our sunscreen episode last year. We talked about all the sunscreen controversy.
It's the one we're wearing foil hats.
Yes. But that was when all these brands feel the need to come out with a mineral only formula and SPF 50, all the jazz, and they're just so bad.
Yeah, it ain't pretty. So, and it also makes more tan skin like mine look like mimes, and I really don't like that. So, yeah. All right, so that's UVB. UVA.
Yeah, UVA is less energetic than UVB, which means that it's not the ray responsible for sunburns, but it penetrates your skin deeper, and in the long term, it causes in a nice way, it might cause some hyperpigmentation, but it really, really causes long-term aging as well. That's, all the sagging, photo aging, a lot of it is directly associated with UVA. So what you're looking for here is a word broad spectrum if you're in the States. Which is a kind of a floofy word, and that just means it has some UVA protection, but it's not rated. Like, it's not a numbering system. But thank you to other jurisdictions. I think last year was also when I gave the rant about PA++ versus different testing. But anyway, in Asia, the system is the PA whatever system,
which we like much better.
Yes, so it's ranked with plus, blah, 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 blah. Again, it goes up to 4 pluses, and it kind of it rates the amount of UVA that it protects you from. I like this also because it seems a lot of U.S. brands are now picking it up.
Yes, I think as people's awareness and education about sunscreen is growing, they understand that people care just as much about UVA protection as UVB, which is great. So that's definitely a good sign. And if you're wondering why the U.S. Only has the broad spectrum label, it's because SPF first came around because the only care they had, which was skin cancer, and that's why, at the end of the day, SPF is an OTC, must be tested, FDA regulated claim. And hopefully that gives you an idea of why that seems to get the preference. But at the same time, yes, we are starting to see better UVA labeling come around with some of these launches.
Yeah, and I was also going to add that maybe there are thoughts of improving what broad spectrum means and or introducing a rank scale like the PA+ system. But we are still waiting for that monograph. At this point, it's like waiting for the last book of Game of Thrones.
We'll probably be 50 before we see any of that come around.
I was but a wee child when I graduated college, got into the industry, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're waiting for the sunscreen monograph."
And you're like, oh.
I think that was when Obama was in his first term.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think with we're gonna have multiple episodes on sunscreens. Also because of all of the controversy around it. If you guys hadn't noticed, the drama of the sunscreen study with, finding filters in the bloodstream, there hasn't been a lick of updates recently. But we'll touch on that again in the episodes to come. But yeah, with all that drama, I'm sure the FDA is just swamped. But yeah. All right, so those are the two main claims that you're looking for. The next thing that we think is very important, especially when you're going to have a beach day, when you're going to go swimming, is water resistance. And that claim is definitely follow that timeline of either 40 or 80 minutes that you typically find. But I did want to share a really interesting, super nerdy article that was done. And bless this lab's heart, because these guys worked really hard. The study actually looked at creating an in vitro method to mimic sweating skin and try to understand how sweating skin impacts sunscreen filters, sunscreen films, and how those hold up. And the level of the work that they did to create this model is fascinating. They actually grew this gelatin substrate from porcine skin. They then layered it with a PMMA film underneath. Then they glued it to a membrane. They have a water reservoir underneath. So you've got this essentially sweating system. They laser drilled holes to mimic the sweat gland. And then basically started doing a bunch of tests. And the tests are really interesting. They looked at UV reflectance imagery just to see how the sunscreen film would hold up. We'll share the pictures here. They took a bunch of pictures before sweating, starting to sweat, after sweating for 20 minutes, and then what the film looks like after sweating and it's dried. And I will say, despite that it's in vitro, it's very evident that sweating definitely plays a very big impact on sunscreen films. What they saw is that even, I'm showing Gloria here, this picture, if you look at the degradation of the film after sweating and when it dries, it's clearly very significant. And they even looked at it under what they call Carr's microscopy. That's coherent anti-Stokes Raman spectroscopy. So this is like fancy imagery and imaging. And what they did is they wanted to understand if they looked at a single sweat gland, right, in their model, and they started to let it sweat, it can actually capture like the sunscreen. And I'm showing Gloria here. This haloing is the water pushing the film out. So it's very clear that what's happening is not only is sunscreen being washed off, it's getting displaced and moved again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Super nerdy.
Also, no one got paid doing this.
I know. It's like clearly for science and super amazed. And it's awesome that they published this.
Question. Was this done with mineral or chemical filters?
So I think they looked at chemical, and yeah, but they just looked at it in multiple ways. I think the goal was also trying to show that this is a valid in vitro model. The difficulty with in vitro, which is basically life subject. This is like things in test tubes, in petri dishes. When you do that, it's very hard to correlate that to real life. And this is like, I think, essentially the first step in trying to validate this as a good method. Also because sweat-resistant studies are not actually a thing anymore. You can't really do that anymore. And so it's just a great way to understand how we can better formulation. So I'm showing Gloria here another one where this is like the general film. You can see the sweat gland and the water starting to come out. Also, the water itself for sweat, they did make sure is like electrolyte. Similar.
That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah. So you can see the film just like kind of break up by the end as it dried.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is just what they did say is that, with higher sweat rates, if you are someone that is prone to sweating, they suggest that it does have a negative impact on your sunscreen film. And on top of that, they just say that they looked at if you apply higher levels of sunscreen, can that help? And they say that actually can. They did see that those with higher UV level protection can achieve better just general protection all around, despite it degrading. So anyways, I
really feel like that's like highlights how sunscreen is a really weird balance act. Because if you're sweaty, or if you are prone to sweating, let's say if you are also prone to oily skin, it suggests that, maybe you should aim for higher degrees of protection, but those texture tends to be garbage, and you tend to under apply, or it's kind of a lot of balancing.
I don't want to give too many like hard takeaways on this because again, like it is an in vitro study. It does give me, I guess, a lot of optimism that they are trying to look at real life scenarios for sunscreen films, but it does make me want to stick to sunscreen formulas that are kind of in Asia, especially for people that are prone to sweating, just because they're used to dealing with such humid conditions.
Actually, I do want to add that yes, in Asia, a lot of sunscreens are rated for water resistance, even if they're not positioned for like sport or anything like that. I prefer those, not because I don't sweat that much. In Asia, I do, but maybe not here. But I like them because they tend to irritate my eyes less.
Okay.
Yeah, because they stay put better. So as the day go on, the sunscreen doesn't get in your eye.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that if you are just known to be a sweater, which I can definitely get like that, especially around the nose area. I definitely am the one that's like
got the bead
sweat. it does not hurt to apply more.
Yeah. And you don't have to wait the full 2 hours to reapply if you feel like you're sweaty, you like wipe down your sweat. Which actually brings me to a mini content preview.
All right, let's do it.
We got a new toy. It's like a little, it's a pad. It's, you guys will see it. We are planning on doing a lot of outdoorsy things this summer and see how sunscreen holds up.
Yeah, and the two of us it's actually our motivation to be active in the summer, or at least really mine. And hopefully you'll see how these sunscreens hold up over our hour of outdoor activity.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to wrap up all the nerdy talk here. We're going to talk about everything we just reviewed in application in part 2. But first, let's get into our claims corner and take a little mini break.
It's
claims corner. All right. Okay. This one's tough. Our great friend, Cuties Cura, he sent us a big one. So
man, he knows how to put us to work.
He knows. I feel like he knows us personally and knows what really rubs us the wrong way. Okay, we're not gonna talk about the brand. We're gonna talk about the claim. And so this claim raises a few eyebrows. They write, since other brands aim to reach higher SPF levels, more chemicals are included in these sunscreens that this brand actively aims to avoid. Shop our chemical-free sunscreens at the link in our bio.
Okay.
So immediately you're like,
Mr. Elba, I have a question. I have a question about the chemical-free claim. Hello.
You're selling less is more.
That in a category where it's never be uttered.
You're selling lower SPF because higher SPF is more chemicals, which is bad. You're also selling less work for you as a brand. Like, it's genius. I have never heard this kind of marketing in my life. Yeah.
I feel like that's almost like the companies. It's like, you know what, man, I hate paying chemists. I'm just gonna put my backyard spring water in a bottle.
Why doesn't anyone want to feed us? I don't understand. I feel like we do real work.
I mean,
seriously. Are we don't deserve to be paid?
No, clearly.
Okay, so upon going into this brand, I also had to say they have some very concerning diagrams. One of them, they talk about their vitamin D promoting technology, and they basically will show the two graphs here, and they say how normal sunscreens protect from UVA and UVB.
They show the rays bouncing away from the product.
As they should. Then they show their sunscreen and UVB penetrating into the skin.
You get vitamin D! Woo!
And boy, Mr. Elba.
I have more questions. Yeah, so Victoria did the research on this brand, and she just didn't say much. Turned her computer around, showed me the graphics. I'm like, excuse me, what? Never have I, and I didn't know what they were selling, but the graphics looks like a UVA only sunscreen. I'm like, oh, why?
Skin cancer. Remember, UVB, SPF, skin cancer, like
and burns and the words.
Help. Yeah. So very problematic marketing claims. Turns out they really are looking at how to be able to get vitamin D from the sun while still getting UV protection. And while I think the work is like quite early, the marketing is so painful, and I find it very hard because the messaging is so difficult, even for us to like go through and really understand. I would say that I would not trust this at this time.
Yeah. So long story short, what they're claiming is their product letting a very specific wavelength of UVB. So it shouldn't be enough to cause you burns and issues down the road, but it's enough to stimulate vitamin D production. Yeah. Which we do get these questions once in a while. It's like, oh, if I'm sunscreening all over, what get on vitamin D? Damn it, my mic again. But to us, we're always like, well, yes, that is a concern, but you know, there are other ways to get vitamin D through your diet, through whatever else. But this is a very interesting concept just in execution. I don't know which regulatory body would ever approve this. And
especially just the copy. I think it is interesting research. But because as we've kind of hinted at, regulation, FDA, regulatory bodies, it's already very difficult there's a lot of red tape in this product space, and this doesn't really help either. But again, like we generally are on the stance of there's other ways to get vitamin D. Also remember that skin can tolerate some level of sun, and so getting just a little bit of sun, that's great. It's just if you're going to be out in the sun, you know, that kind of protection, that's when sunscreen really is important, you know. So anyways, I don't know.
Last question. What filter system do they use?
So I believe it is zinc. Let me double check.
Well, that's where I find kind of
Oh, actually no. This is a chemical sunscreen.
Yeah, so this is where I find it to be kind of weird, because of all these, as chemists, we get really fun diagrams that I'm sure you guys could care less about, which is absorbance spectrums of all these ingredients, and they all have they all come in a range, and you know, together as a whole, they make a system that covers you from, you know, the entire UV range, give you that protection. The difficult ones, obviously, are the ones that extend into the UVA range. But so they use a very common set of chemical filters. I don't recall a single one of them that so carefully excludes the wavelength that they claim that their product excludes. So I'm just like, I have a lot of questions, and to Victoria's point, I just would not really trust this yet.
Yeah, totally agree. Actually, that is a really good point. We formulate with these guys often. All the time, I didn't even think about that. But in another camp, it's also I don't even want to say that. No, you're absolutely right. Lots of questions all around.
So, interesting topic, and good luck to you.
And let's. The takeaway from here is you need both UVA and UVB protection. Do not listen to this graph. That is the main takeaway.
I saw the graph. I was like, oh, literally my reaction. Gasp. And that's a claims corner. Thank you for your submission.
Yeah, keep sending them our way. This is a great find and a really good just general lesson for all of us on this topic. So, all right. Now it's time to talk about some actual sunscreen products. And before that, we have another review.
Yay.
You guys love this so much.
Yay.
So we're just going to give some tips on when you're shopping, what to look for. So Gloria, take it away.
Yeah, first things first, we always recommend choosing your system first. We talked about the difference between mineral and chemical, and now there are a lot of hybrid system out now. Now, mineral for me is a little problematic. It's often positioned, and it is considered a little bit more gentle for so people with sensitive skin. A lot of derms will point you to mineral sunscreen. My problem is with sunscreen is that, first of all, mineral formulas, I have not came across one that I love. Like ever. Texturally.
Can agree.
And most have a cast. And it's just not something it's just not something that promotes really good sun habits. So that's why I think for most people really reach for chemical, because chemical there's a diverse range of textures. There's a lot you can work with, and you can find something you like. Now, if for whatever reason you're not super keen on high levels of chemical filters, we're not going to get into it in this episode.
Happen. That's true. There are some that just their skin type just doesn't work well with chemicals. They are like very polar oils. Like sometimes like skin just doesn't tolerate, and that's just the way of skin.
Yep. That's now on the market. We see a lot of hybrid systems. They get away with not using the coral controversial filters, but at the same time, they can lessen the amount of mineral sunscreen they use. So those might be interesting to look into. We're going to get a few and we're going to put it to the test and we'll let you know how it goes. But yeah, choose your system. We always say texture is more important, but if you're sensitized by any of the filters, that's when you get more selective with the filter system.
For sure. I have also want to say that I have found really... I was going to say really light fluids can sometimes be hit or miss with that texture. They're kind of straying from the general like mineral chemical category, but sometimes when they label it as dry fluid, I have found that to be very, very polarizing for users. Some love that it's dry, it's instantly dry, it really feels like skin is, they're trying to give you that clean feel so that maybe you're out or you're layering or any of that, it just doesn't add too much weight. But others, I don't know, Gloria, you feel like this where dry fluids can feel super drying, almost to the point that it just feels like you have this skin is somehow like is a dry patch now. Yeah. So
for me, some of them do make me feel a little dry, but my big problem is actually I don't know if I missed a spot. There are ones that's so thin that it's just, they have a very signature. A lot of them use silicone or silicone-esque type of fluid, so it's very light. It has a signature finger feel.
I think of the La Roche-Posay SPF 50-60 fluid.
Yeah, and a lot of sunscreen sprays sometimes have that feeling too. And for me, it's like, oh, okay, I like the lightness, but it's so like, it's so not substantial that I'm like,
it dries so
quick. Yeah, I'm like, am I running out of real estate? I took so Biore, who we like, their Aqua Riche is a staple we often recommend. We bought they have a red bottle called Ethlism. Yeah. And it's like really hardcore, like outdoors, water resistant, sweat resistant, like PA blah, 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 to the moon type of sunscreen. I bought it, and I'll tell you it.
Actual claim, PA to the moon.
PA to the moon. I tell you what, it works super duper well. I went to the beach with it. I went hiking with it. I didn't even get tan. Yeah. And I'm guilty of sometimes forgetting to reapply. So for me to not get tan, it's a really powerful sunscreen. But my problem is always I'm like, I'm like, it's very powdery, it's very light, and I just never know.
Here? Well, maybe it's over here.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of my take on that.
Good call. All right. So we've gone off tangent, but anyways, so you're gonna decide between mineral, chemical, and maybe hybrid. Then after that, you're going to look for your SPF value, your broad spectrum, your PA+++++. To
the moon.
To the moon.
It's a theme on this episode, PA to the moon.
And then I would say price point, just because we're starting to see sunscreen prices exponentially increase to the moon.
To the moon.
And it's kind of concerning because... it's definitely a product that we want everyone to use. Skin cancer isn't a joke. Sunburns are not a joke. And so with that, making that price point too high, I don't really agree with that.
Yeah. We mentioned it on the podcast and on Instagram a few times before. Victoria's one of her favorite sunscreen texture is the Murad City Defense.
A beautiful mineral. It's the only
one. Nice. Even I will use it.
Yeah.
But
it's $60.
Yeah.
So it's not sustainable. I actually don't even use it. I don't use it anymore.
So when you're like, oh my god, that's $10. You're probably not going to give the 2-3 finger rule like a serious girl. Yeah, that's the reality of it. For me, this I have a confession. We worked with Strivectin on their vitamin C sunscreen before. And that one I genuinely like. I like their texture. It's positioned as a moisturizer. And I will say it for moisturizing sunscreen, it actually really holds up pretty well to when I'm active. Because I don't get the burn when I go hiking with it. Even though it's like a nice enough texture to be a daily sunscreen. So I do like it a lot. And we got our PR sample for it. And I was like, oh, I like it. And I actually finished it. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Let me buy my own bottle. I looked up the price. I was like, ooh, yeah, so, listen, very nice Strivectin PR lady. Y'all got any more in your warehouse? So, yes, price point is a very real thing, especially it's something you want to use every day, not in a stingy way.
Yeah, that's a we're not cheap.
We're not. We're totally
not cheap. All right, cool. Let's talk about a few recent launches, and we'll also hint at a few that we are planning to try out. First things first, Paracone's hypoallergenic CBD ultra lightweight calming SPF 35.
My Paracone's on that SEO game. I have a really stupid thing to nitpick on for them.
All right.
I think the bottle's ugly.
So you didn't like that they took inspiration from Aveeno?
Well, exactly. I'm like, if I'm spending $59, spoiler alert, this is $59, and then I'm like, I deserve a nicer bottle. I'm sorry, Paracone. That was my first thought. I was like, man, that's a generic looking sunscreen bottle.
I think the tough thing is, like, again, we just talked about Murads SPF 50, beautiful mineral texture, and that's $60. And for me, the tough thing is Paracone's is an SPF 35 for $59. I'm like, that's really hard for me to purchase.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's formulated with CBD, which I thought it is an ingredient that has fallen off the trend train and died. You know what's funny is I totally see this product as one that like wanted to hop on the CBD train, but sunscreens take a long time to formulate and do right. So credit to Paracone to go through all the testing, and then they're like, well, it's done now, and the CBD train has departed. They're like, wait, hold up.
Like throw it on the train.
Yeah, please.
Well, I think that's why they had to like make the name really long to try to catch on the other stuff. Lightweight, calming, hypoallergenic. Like, all right, the CBD might have left. Let's see if we can hit these other things.
Yeah. Oh my god. If we hit too close to home, dear marketing people at Paracone, I'm sorry.
We feel for you guys, is what we're saying.
Yes.
All right. Anyways.
But yes, this is a zinc-only filter system with 15.45% zinc oxide. The formula is, I read it as, it's pretty standard. It's zinc oxide with a lot of very, very lightweight oil. The primary lightweight oils are isododecane and cap triglyceride. I
would say this probably can function as a pretty solid daily moisturizer as well. Again, we haven't trialed this, but
we will.
Yes, and I think the thing to keep in mind is I think sunscreens is definitely one where people feel like I need to get as much protection as possible. But you can definitely make a case for lower SPFs, especially for people with, let's say, really struggling with white cast, people that are really struggling with just general, I guess, sunscreen aesthetics, or even they find that the higher SPFs cause their skin a lot of irritation, breakouts, anything like that. So I would say that, honestly, the hybrid SPF 30 category, I think it's definitely, I would fit that in.
Yeah, and this product's position is lightweight, and it does use a lot light oil. This is something super nitpicky, and no one will give a crap about. But they use a stabilizer, a hectorite-based stabilizer, and hectorite is a type of clay. And this is really stupid, but I have dry skin, and I hate hectorite. Oh my god, I'm just giving this product function for very stupid personal reasons.
It
but
could be at a little amount.
It is a very low on the list. But anything with high levels of hector, I'm like...
She's already hissing. Okay. All right. Good call out. But yeah, definitely one to trial for texture or if like an all-in-one type of product. Let's move on to the next launch. This one has definitely made a bigger splash in social media. It's Glow Recipes Watermelon Glow Niacinamide SPF 50. Yeah.
All right. Well, this one is a hybrid system.
Yes.
One of the ones we talked about. And this one is a hybrid system,
yes.
Like we talked about. It combines zinc oxide, 12.1% of it, with chemical filters. Mm-hmm. I want to add that the first thing that made me raise my eyebrow a little bit, I'm like, that is a lot of chemical with a lot of physical.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. So the total sunscreen load is 16, 21. It's like 30 some odd %. And that's yes, you do need a decently high load, but to me I'm like, wow, that's pretty darn high.
Yeah, for sure. That's, I like we said before, hybrids seem to be a thing this year. Definitely something to look out for as, I'll be honest, as formulators, that's not quite as common. And so we'll definitely be trialing out the hybrids. It could be a better compromise of texture and protection, but who knows? You really won't know.
Yeah, you'll see a mineral only sunscreen with 12% zinc oxide, which to me is like, that's why I was kind of like, huh. I also want to say that because they call out niacinamide, and niacinamide is chilling in the purgatory part of the
I would say
it's there.
It's there. Probably not too much, so I wouldn't worry too much.
I just would say I wouldn't be concerned about overlaying niacinamide with this product.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's the other one that we plan to trial. And then we wanted to call out a couple other ones. We know Tatcha just launched their SPF 50. That one is a mineral. Also, Supergoop has their new Every Single Face SPF 50. That one has a 40-minute water resistance, as well as Shiseido has their SPF 42 with 40-minute water resistance.
I have a bone to pick with Shiseido.
Oh.
So I think Shiseido makes some really awesome sunscreen textures.
Okay.
They have a bunch of different brands under their umbrella.
I'm curious to see where this is going.
So in Asia, Anessa is like one of their there's flagship sunscreen brands. There's a bunch of different options you can have. I feel like people love Shiseido because it's light. They do a really good job with texture. And I feel like recently it's gone to their head. They're like, light can be lighter. And the recent ones I tried are super, super drying on me because it has that powdery finish, which is nice. Mm-hmm. But for me, like after a few hours, because it stays really well too. Yeah. So after an hour or two, that powdery feeling to me, I'm like,
Are you talking about the sports fluid?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's not that bad. So for me, it sits in a weird spot because it is very powdery, but it's nice enough for me to wear it. But by hour 3, I'm like, oh my god, my skin hates me.
Moisture.
Me skin is parched.
Yeah. Actually, if you guys haven't tried that one, the tint on that is incredible.
It's high coverage.
Yeah. If you want to talk about a multi-functioning foundation and sunscreen protection, it's very good. But I totally agree with you. I think like by the third, I don't know if it's the water resistance is just so good, but I'm like, wow, even through sweat, like your skin stays really dry. But I did, even though you have that bone to pick with them, I would say Shiseido is probably that one brand that's kind of, I feel like it's a little underrated.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Everyone talks about all of these other brands and they've actually been around for so long and they have like a really big library of textures as well. We will definitely look into La Roche-Posay because their library is quite big as well. But I just feel like Shiseido is the one that's like kind of been people sleeping on.
I think their classic, is it Anessa when they first came out? I still remember in Asia. They're also one of the first brands, at least in my memories, when I was in school. They're the first brand that championed like the sporty girl look. Because I think in Asia the beauty standard is more like delicate. They're pretty pale. They're like, like wallflowery.
Yeah.
But they're one of the first brands that championed that like badass like surfer girl, like really tone getting out pool look way back in the early anyway. Yeah, definitely a little underappreciated.
Yeah. And the other thing I kind of like intimidated by is the fact that Tatcha's SPF 50 is also, I believe it's like $60, and
why is that the new standard now?
It feels like people are like pushing up the price point of sunscreen, which is like the last thing we want to happen. So yeah, not a fan of that trajectory. Otherwise, yeah, so look to more episodes coming out on sunscreen, especially as more launches come out. Look to our testing where we get to share with you all of the 1 hour workouts, 2 hour workouts that we do.
2 hour workouts? Whoa.
Wait a second.
Whoa.
I didn't sign up for this. But other than that, that is really the meat for today.
Yay, we're done. Okay, it's time to break it up. Break it up. Oh, Victoria's Secret weird mood. Woo! All right.
Like karate chop dance move.
It's a fruit ninja. All right. Oh, today is my turn.
Yeah.
And we are talking about the Sika deer.
Oh, yeah. Give it
The
to
Latin
me.
name is Cervus nippon.
Bless you.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't right. But this is the type of deer that's found in Asia. It's over Asia. Most of it originated from Japan. Here's the nippon in its name. So it's kind of interesting because, fun fact, I always thought of that kind of deer as deer because I spent a chunk of my childhood in Asia. The reason why this deer is special is because it's one of the few species where the spots on their back actually stays through adulthood. Like they always have that spot.
Cute.
It's cute. Spots. I still remember when I moved to the States, we had an assignment where we had to draw a deer. So I drew deer with spots. And they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's the spots on the deer. And they're like, deer don't have spots. I'm like, oh my bad. But anyway, it's a special to
because
the
this
Asian
is
deer.
America. And everything we know is right and law.
Yeah, deer are huge and they are gray. I'm like, okay. So anyway, when I was looking it up, it's actually kind of interesting because this breed of deer is actually considered a bit of an invasive species. There's a gazillion subspecies. You can find them actually in Maryland and Texas. They're all over Europe, and they all like develop subspecies of their own. They didn't say it in the article, but I'm pretty sure it's because they just went humping whichever deer they find. Whatever local deer they can find, they're like, hello, nice to meet you. All right.
They don't see species. Good on them.
Yeah, equal opportunity loving kind of deer.
Yeah, I love it.
I also, when I was looking up this deer, looking for fun facts and stuff, I read a line that's like, fun fact, the Sika deer is actually not considered a deer. It's an elk. So I was like, what makes it different? What classifies it as an elk? So I Googled it. I'm glad you asked. I still don't know what the difference is.
So we don't know what the difference between elk and the Sika deer, or just elk and deer? Because now I have existential questions.
Yeah. So when you look up, dear Google, what is the difference between elk and deer? It'll give you like a bunch of things that's defined by what you commonly think of as elk, right? Like the most prominent species of like a big ass deer.
Okay.
And then, no, that's actually, big ass deer might not be the line they use, but the actual first qualification they write is
big ass deer.
Elk tend to be bigger than deer.
Okay.
And then excuse me, Mr. Emma, but the Sika deer is very small. And they'll talk about how and they all classify based on say North America. Deer is more like, ground level deer, and elks live in mountains. Yeah, they talk about their ecosystem, their environment, and their hoof shape and stuff like that. Okay. But they're referring to very specific species of elk and deer. Okay. So when I ask the question, why is I have it in my Google history, why is Sika an elk? It wouldn't tell me. It just keeps regurgitating lines of Sika is actually an elk. And remember their Latin name, Cervus nippon? Yeah. So I looked up Cervus, the family. I went down a rabbit hole. And they actually called the Cervus, whatever, that family name. It's actually, the family name is True Deer. I'm like, are you a deer or not? I don't know.
Who are you? Yeah. What do you want?
Yeah, so my conclusion from my research, and please, if any of you is a specialist in this field, please let me know.
Yeah.
Is actually because people actually have trouble differentiating between these like deer-esque species for a really long time. So some of these work have been redone. Like
also because the Sika deer have been busy.
Exactly. So the genealogy, like obviously genetics haven't been didn't get really good until like the 90s and 2000s. So some of these deer species that's been put in the same family before, after they did genetic testing, they realized, oh, they're not that closely related. Therefore, you have confusing lines like Sika deers and elk, and you can't tell me, I couldn't figure out why. But anyway, moving on.
Got it. So sign up all the deer for 23andMe is what needs to happen.
Correct, and you will know Sika deer have been around town. But anyway, locally, they are found in China, Japan, all over Asia, really. The Chinese subspecies have much more pronounced spotting.
Oh, okay.
So the Japanese ones actually have really faint spots. And I was like, oh, actually, when I was in Japan, I don't remember any of them having spots.
Oh, okay.
So in Japan, probably the most notable deer sanctuary type area you can think of is Nara.
Yep.
Nara in Japan, if you've never been, you have to go. It is magical.
Yeah.
They're just deer walking the streets. They're all pretty well managed. And you can buy these crackers called...
Are they the ones that bow all the time?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're called... the crackers are called Sika senbei. They're literally a stack of cookies that you can feed the deer, and they all know you have them. And exactly what Victoria said, they're also called, the Nara subspecies is called the bowing deer, because you'll see cutesy videos of them coming up to you bowing, and then the tourists will feed them a senbei, and they go off happy. I have been to Nara twice, and I can tell you that is a lie.
Wait, so they don't bow?
So they sometimes bow.
Oh, okay.
But as you bow, there's three more behind you trying to get into your cracker stash. They don't care. I have a video, and maybe I'll give a fire and post it here, but of me being chased by the deer, because they are you got the goods, and they know you have the goods because they can smell those crackers from a mile away.
Oh my goodness.
And what's also interesting is I'll read this quote directly from the wiki article about Nara Park. It says, however, deer typically bow heads to signal that they're about to headbutt. Therefore, if an Nara deer bows to you, when the human bows to a deer, the deer may take it as a challenge and will assume the same stance before charging and attempting to headbutt the person.
But you nullify it with a cookie, right?
Yes.
That's why you have the cookie. It's a life-saving
Gloria,
thing.
you said senbei. Please take it as a peace offering. Yeah, but Nara is really adorable. It's really cute.
Yeah.
I don't know. The funny things when I was there, the thing I noticed is none of the deer are overweight. So I think they do a pretty good job balancing how much senbei they're supposed to sell every day.
Really good.
Yeah, and
so it's not a petting zoo.
No. They're pretty chill. You can pet them, and they're just and the deer kind of gives you this I'm just here for a cookie. That doesn't even touch me. Kind of look. It's a interesting place. I think it's really well run. They do a good balance of it. But then anyway, it brings me to the real reason why I wanted to
there's
talk
an actual... it's not just about the Sika deer.
Yes. Well, the Sika deer is over Asia. I spent a chunk of my childhood in Taiwan. There's also a subspecies in Taiwan. Their dots are somewhere between the Japanese subspecies and Chinese subspecies. Their dots are visible, but not as pronounced as the Chinese ones. Okay. And they're also they're pretty petite because Taiwan's mountainous and difficult, I guess. Yeah, so they're really they're almost...
They have to work out.
Yes, it's almost like a pygmy deer. They're really adorable. Cute. It's a specialty, and recently they've been working on this for a long time. But in Taitung, which is on the east side of the island, they opened up a deer park recently. They're like, you know what, with COVID, you can't travel internationally, so we will bring Nara to home. So let's open up our deer park. And they open it up and they unveil the entrance, and it's 2 giraffes.
It was actually 2 giraffes.
Actually 2 giraffes. And everyone's
We're looking at the picture now.
Yeah, they're like, yeah. The deer part. So in Chinese, giraffe, the ending character, like it's the same character as the deer. It's basically it's called neck deer in Chinese, quite literally if you translate the characters. So everyone's like, excuse me, I think you got the wrong deer at the entrance, Mr. Elbow. Mr. Elbow.
You know, people are gonna, if they didn't watch the last episode, they're gonna be like, why do they keep talking about Mr. Elbow?
Please listen to episode 4 for the reference.
It's an inside joke.
Yes.
If you listen, you'll get it.
Exactly.
But we're looking at 2 very alarmingly large giraffe statues.
For this
these
deer head.
giraffe statues look like they had a great night.
Too
Might
good of
be
night.
cracked out of their mind with their mouths gaping open, towering over these humans.
Yeah.
I would say that the project brief may not have been accurately executed.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So I laughed a hearty laugh when because my parents was telling me about how like next time you come back, there are new places to take you to, blah blah blah, and they sent me this park, and I was like, what
giraffe park?
What? There's a giraffe park in Taiwan? And I saw my, this is like misleading.
Isn't that false? Yeah, it is false advertising.
Yeah, it's like
FTC. Hello.
FDA. Yeah. Anyway, I had a hearty laugh. I'll post pictures of the actual deer and the giraffe gate. And the funniest thing is they interviewed the mayor of the local town. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's like a artistic expression thing.
Oh, he tried.
And people were like, it's a giraffe. Yep. So that's a real reason why I want to talk about the Sika deer.
Yeah, the Sika deer. Super cute.
Yeah.
Super derpy park, which I guess makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, I guess we're going to wrap this up with some last Q&A. First question comes from Rachel. Can you cover the data behind Altreno and how it is different from regular tretinoin versus double play?
Great question. Altreno sells tretinoin.
Mm-hmm.
Tretinoin is the ingredient name. So when you say how is it different from regular tretinoin, I think you're asking how is it different from other prescription tretinoin, like Retin-A is like the old, like most classic one. Yeah, and now you can get different formulas on Telemed too. And all these Telemeds, sometimes they sell like a Retin-A, but sometimes they also sell their own formulas of tretinoin. One of the biggest draws to Altreno is that they are supposed to be more gentle. It's formulation based. Okay. Their clinical study claims that only 1% reported skin irritation. And that's
Was there a concentration that came with that?
0.05.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
that's not bad.
Yeah, so that is like the biggest, like, wow, that's pretty impressive for tretinoin. Other than that, in terms of efficacy, it should be pretty on par with all the other tretinoins. The reality is all the different formulas that you can get, there are different ways to do it. Like, because it's a prescription drug, you're all supposed to test it for efficacy, stability, and different formulators might pack it with different soothers or other maybe penetration enhancers to give it different effects. But ultimately, I would say it seems like that skin irritation data is the biggest draw to the Altreno formula. But in terms of efficacy, I wouldn't expect anything super different than other tretinoin.
Yeah, and if you're asking about Altreno versus double play, it's different because
it's a deer versus a giraffe.
Yeah, it's not a deer and elk situation. It's a deer and giraffe situation. Yeah, so in double play, we use encapsulated retinol. You would say it's one step removed from tretinoin, retinoic acid. So the concentration is actually different. And in ours, we use 0.5% retinol. So definitely wouldn't consider it on the same playing field. If you are used to tretinoin formulas, we'd say we recommend you to stick to that. But if you are looking for a retinol formula, you can consider ours.
Yes.
All right. And then last question. how do you exfoliate without irritating the skin?
Great
Carefully.
question. Yeah. Slowly. I feel like when people ask us this question, they come from two very extreme ends of the spectrum.
I think that's a good point, yeah.
We have people who are like, they've never used a true chemical exfoliant before. They maybe only used a light physical exfoliant or one of those like light gels that ball up type of exfoliant. And then we have people that have been burned by chemical exfoliant and then they ask these questions. So depending on your experience level, we recommend starting low and slow. And
how low, how slow, Gloria?
Well, what a great question. So for most normal skin type, I actually think the best starting point is just low levels of glycolic acid. 5 to 8% glycolic acid can be used daily. You just start out using it every other night and see how your skin goes. Give it some time because overexfoliation doesn't come up right away. And the signs you're looking for in terms of overexfoliation is, to me, the telltale sign is not even redness or stinging. It's like elevated sensitivity to products that typically don't sensitize you. At least like that's how cleansing. It comes out for me. Yes, exactly. You can use an oil cleanser and it pinches just a little bit. It's like, ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, that is not good.
Yeah. So those are the signs to look for. You bump it up to everyday usage. I will say most normal skin can tolerate it pretty well. And there's nothing wrong with sticking to that level.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on other actives.
Yes.
But if you're trying to level up, I think, I don't know why I was like drawing a blank and words would not come out. So that's how you start.
I'm just like,
yeah. So I would say up to 10 to 12% is probably the max threshold you should target for daily usage.
For glycolic.
For glycolic acid. And to level up, just go for like a home peel, and those can be used about once a week or once every 2 weeks. Those are all fine. And again, keep on the lookout for signs like increased elevated sensitivity, increased dryness. Now that's glycolic, and that's for most normal skin with no previous chemical exfoliation experience.
See our product gold standard for inspiration.
Yes. If you are very, very wary and you have a history of your skin being a little bit more sensitive, start in the lactic or Mandelic kind of realms.
Yeah.
Those are bigger molecules. They will still work, but they're much, much more gentle. In fact, lactic acid is kind of our go-to for if you are sensitive and a little bit on the dry side.
Yep.
Because low levels of lactic can also be a hydrator.
Yeah.
Whew. And then you bump it up from there. Yeah. That's the long and short of it.
And I was just going to add, like, with bigger molecules, you might need a little more. So with lactic, starting out 8% is generally a good range versus like a glycolic's 5. Mandelic, it's actually bigger than lactic. So, you definitely need a little bit more. And I just want to add in my personal anecdote. If you are used to a lot of high level acne topicals, those tend to work a little bit better, just in terms of managing any sort of additional side effects. If you're already dealing with dryness, redness, stinging, all of that, that's probably a better route to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully that's helpful. If not, check out the blog, write to us, read the book. We've got so many references for you. We got you. So yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. As usual, you know where to find us.
Where can they find us, Gloria?
You can find us on our website at chemistconfessions.com. Leave a comment on the YouTube video. Write to us at info@chemistconfessions.com. And yeah, that's it for this episode.
Yeah.
Let us know what you want to talk about next time. We are recording this slightly early, which means we'll have a little bit of gap between this and the next script. So definitely let us know what you want us to talk about.
Yeah, and we can't wait to start doing all those sunscreen studies. So yeah, you'll hear from us soon. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for listening this time. We will see you guys next time. Bye.